All right, boys, we got through 1 hour. And things have not blown up in our faces. OverDrive, myself, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and Chesko Corrado coming at you from Woodbridge. It's good to be here, and I got to tell you, I love the name Chesko. It's got a ring to it, and it gets your attention. I got to tell you, we got to give Hayes some props because doing like the co-host, like the word co-host into host, it's a different ball game. Like being a co-host, you can eat your dinner, man, during the show. Like when we have a guest on, and I'll just come clean. When the guest's face pops up on the screen, I eat half my dinner. Like yesterday when Chris Johnston's face was going across the screen, that's called dinner time. It's not my question. He's not going to ask a follow-up. That's my time to strap on a feed bag and say, I've completely checked out. Hayes has got this. But when you're hosting, it is a different animal. You got to be on your toes, and maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call. Be a little bit more on your toes at all times, but it's a different ball game out here, boys. I'm not going to lie.
It is. And how about when then you have JP in your ear telling you, got to wrap, got to go. No, we really got to go now. And you're like, I got to somehow get out of this conversation we're having, have some kind of like an intelligent comment on the way out, and then remember where we're at and say, 10:50 TSN 4, who's on the show, send it.
Yeah. Like the one thing I don't understand about is like when people say, I don't know, like people said to me early on, they're like, I don't know if you can do that because you got to throw to commercial. How hard is it to say coming up next is Mike Johnson? We'll see in a bit. And just turn the microphone off. Like I don't think it's not that hard.
No, but I will say this, and what Brian is a master at is teasing. Hey, coming back. Hey, have you heard of this story coming out of here? We'll get back to it next. Like, he's really good at like teasing the story and all of that type of stuff. That's what makes him a master. But you're right. Intro, extra, all of that type of stuff. Everyone can do it.
I'm going to give you a tease. We got Mike Johnson coming up. But the president down in the States, he went back to something today, and when you guys hear what he went back to, you'll absolutely...
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, did you see it?
Well, of course. I follow all of that stuff.
It is something. It's worth a giggle. Anyway, joining us now on the Maple Toyota Hotline is Mike Johnson. Johnny, how you doing, pal?
Oh, I got to tell you, I am fantastic. The fact that it's you saying hello and coming out of the breaks, nothing makes me happier to let Hayes know that others can do his job as well. That is tremendous.
Well, did you like the fact that you didn't have to sit there and wait for 7 minutes while he talked to us about something else and made you listen to it? Did you like that I got you in right away?
Because you've been a guest on a lot of these shows. You know what it's like. You don't want to be sitting there and listening to 4 minutes of conversation while you're
Dude, do you know how many times I would tell the guy that the board up, I'd say, if he doesn't get me in 30 seconds, I'm out of here. Because I'm not like... Seriously, I would tell the guy, I'm like, why did you call me? I don't need to listen to 10 minutes of the show, and then you bring me in. I bring the guest in right away and get to the chat. So let's get to it, Johnny. What are your thoughts on Nathan MacKinnon down at the Four Nations moving over back to center ice?
Well, I think when it came out yesterday, he was playing with Sid on the wing. and
yeah, but what could have happened is the question.
Right. I don't know. Maybe they listened to our show and saw Frankie say, I don't know, why would you take the leading scorer in the NHL and put him out of position? Yeah. I'm not sure. But, maybe it's as simple as they want to have a couple different options that they've worked at. Like, not every combination is going to work. Not everything that they lay out initially will last. And so maybe going through a couple of different options beforehand, so that when you get to a game, if it doesn't work out the way you want it, it's not something you've never seen or talked about or tried before. So maybe it's as simple as that. Or maybe it was just the first day they wanted the two of them together because that was, something they both really wanted. But I think it does make sense, though, to have the best scorer in the NHL playing in his natural position. And if you want the two of them together, I would just put MacKinnon in the middle, Crosby on the wing, and Mark Stone on the wing. Like, you could have the three guys, but I would want Nathan MacKinnon in his natural spot, going in the usual patterns on the ice where he goes to generate speed, to take the puck, to create the way he does. So I guess I was a little bit surprised yesterday when he was on the wing, and I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself in the center a little bit as well.
Well, isn't it just natural? You feel like a lot of these coaches overthink things, and Jon Cooper is a master at deception, that type of stuff. Frankie was pointing out he's called a few games at Tampa. I just called a few games at Tampa last week. He always finds extra shift for guys. He always try and move stuff around. So when you're moving guys around for different types of shifts, I think he's the type of guy that wants to play a little bit possum with the media. To me, it's Sidney Crosby is a great centerman, but Nathan MacKinnon is so much speed. He generates speed in his own zone and then gets speeding through the neutral zone. So I agree. I think you are going to see MacKinnon up the ice. The only thing that was pointed out, Johnny, you might have taken a peek at this, his underlying numbers or his actual numbers on the draw. He's in the 40s. I think he's 46 or something, and Sid's like 52. So, I mean, maybe they're overthinking it that way. But it's, who cares? At the end of the day.
That would be an overthink if we're talking about
saying.
6% on the face-off.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, it's amazing. Like, there are moments when face-offs matter a lot. Obviously, on the power play, when you're penalty killing, late in the game, 6-on-4, goalie out. But, you just talked about it, and you're right. Coach would look at that and say, we want the better centerman in there. So let's say they take 20 draws in the game. If you're 55, you win 11. If you're 45, you win 9. Like, it's two neutral zone losses the difference in what you're trying to do out there. So, and again, they would have plenty of options for centermen on that team if they wanted someone else to try to step in there and take them. So the only other thought, though, is that that Hockey Canada Coop have thought this through to every last second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they've been waiting on these 2 days of practice and then a game for months and months and months. So I can't imagine, other than an injury, and maybe Crosby's injury has something to do with it, why they would deviate or not have already sort of outlined what they were going to do in these couple of days and just sort of freelance it. I think whatever is going on is all got to be part of a master plan.
Johnny, how do you think Coop is going to run the bench? Like, what kind of rhythm do you think it's going to be? Like, just pretty simple stuff, a lot of McDavid, a lot of MacKinnon, and then the other guys are going to have to find a way to contribute, whether it be penalty kill or not a lot of ice time. Like, you want to get those top guys cooking, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the home games, they'll try to open the first two lines up offensively. But if you're going to have Point or Sorelli hanging around, like, I also think that when you go up against Team USA and like one of those two guys might get a little bit of Austin Matthews, like they also might sort of have defensive focus on those two bottom lines. But yeah, like someone up front, is going to play 8 minutes. Like, that is the reality. A player who's used to playing 22 is going to get 8 and won't complain about it because it's Team Canada. But again, Coop will have this all laid out. Depending on the rhythm of the game, they will roll 4 lines over the bench if it's going well. As soon as the games get tight, or if they're not playing well, or if they're losing, then it gets shorter, and you see more McDavid, more MacKinnon, the guys you're going to count on to be the best players in this tournament.
I was thinking about this the other day, Johnny, because if you were going to go McDavid first line, MacKinnon second line, and we knew the U.S. had like a number one matchup line that they were going to hard match against those guys, wouldn't that be kind of telling as far as who the U.S. views as more dangerous? But I guess if you were to look at it, you're either going to get Eichel, you're going to get Matthews, you could get Trocheck. I mean, if any of those guys are going over the boards, is there that much disparity between those three guys as far as who's going to be checking the best players?
No, I mean, all can be pretty good defensively. You're right. But I think you'll see, would you rather have, I don't even know who's going to be the number one pair. Would it be Werenski and McAvoy? Is that their number one pair on defense? I wonder if that's the preferred matchup over and if in favor. I don't know. It's pick your poison on both ends. I do think that Eichel and Matthews will be relied on to be scorers. And I think, Miller and his line will be sort of energy physical, and Trocheck will be face-offs and penalty kills and defensive stuff. So even if it doesn't play out that way, at least symbolically, if you get a Miller or a Trocheck, I think that's sort of an acknowledgement that they're more concerned about defense against that line, as opposed to if they go up, Eichel or Matthews and just let them play straight up when they're willing to go for some offense against offense. But it's interesting, Frankie, but it's in such a short tournament. It's so short that it's going to be hard to really read too much into game over game because they'll be figuring out on the fly what works and what doesn't with little time to react and sort through things.
So, Johnny, are we – I don't know how to phrase this. Are we just expecting that it's going to be Canada or the U.S. and that's it? Because are we almost looking at it like the Super Bowl where it's like, yeah, Mahomes are going to three-peat. And
I think it's complete disrespect to the other two teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm bringing up. Is there any chance in your mind that – because I think on paper – who would be the weakest? Would it be Finland because of their defense core, like banged up and all that?
That's a thin D-core by NHL standards. Well,
yeah, Matt and Paolo, who has 16 NHL games, has been invited. They're banged up. But at the end of the day, is there any chance a team named other than Team Canada or Team USA could win this?
Oh, for sure, because it's noodles. The nature of your position, right? You don't think UC Saros can run off 2 wins? Of course he can, right? And how many times have we've all covered international hockey, we've all played international hockey, do the Finnish team, who don't look as good on paper, come together in a tournament and are really hard to play against?
Right.
All the time. So basically, to get to the final, you can probably afford one loss. You can't lose 2, right? So Sweden obviously is excellent. They have lots of talent. They have plenty of goal scorers, game breakers. If their goaltender, if Dolmark or if Gustafsson gets hot, they can do it. Finland, no doubt, they're the weakest roster. I mean, they couldn't even practice yesterday because they have guys sick and coming in and injured and everything else. But again, if it's one game, you could just shoot them 50-20. Canada tied Switzerland in the Olympics, right? In Vancouver, did they not?
Well, there was that Christoph Gudlevskis or whatever made
in Latvia.
Yeah,
that was a 2-1 win or something. But I think they tied Switzerland when it was Cristobal Huet or David Abish or whoever it was.
Yeah.
So it can happen, absolutely. Now, if it's a 7-game series, I'd say it's almost impossible for Finland to win a 7-game series against Canada or the U.S. But a one-off with the nature of goaltending, for sure, and. Not that other countries don't have pride, but sort of the pride and the sort of cohesion that Finnish national teams play with all the time at every level. I think that's an advantage. I think there's something built in about Finnish hockey players that know how to play together for Finland that Canada and the U.S. will be trying to figure out on the fly. I think Finland has a head start. I don't care who's on the roster in trying to do that.
Johnny, if you were going to put your Mystic Mike hat on, Jordan Binnington was named the starting goaltender today.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I don't know if the wording is the importance of his position, but what do you think he's like? What's his role going to have to be? Like, how important is Binnington going to be to the success of Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if Canada plays well, then you'd think that they don't need their goaltender to be their best player to win. Right? They just need him to be good. Don't let any shots go in that you're not supposed to. If you do that, Canada will probably have a good chance of winning most of their games, you'd think. Except against the Americans. Because I look at the American roster, and as much as I love Canada, and I love, I go, McKinnon, McDavid, Makar, they might be the 3 best offensive players in the entire tournament this year, right now in the NHL. I think the U.S. has a better roster, top to bottom. I think they might be deeper. I think their defense is probably deeper than Canada's for sure. Certainly in net, they're better than Canada. So would the goaltender, whether it's Binnington or whether it's Hill, I think it's going to be one of those 2 guys, when they play the U.S., could the shots be 37-24 U.S.? Does the goalie need to be able to play well enough to keep his team close in a game that they're not maybe dominating? I think that's his role. You can't let anything squeaky in, and probably against the Americans, you have to be maybe a little bit better than that and give your team a chance to win in a game where you won't control the play all the time. Like, you think about 2010 and 2014 and how good those Canadian defense were, where Carey Price is stopping 13 or 14 shots. I don't think that's happening this year. Like, I think those only 4 games, but there'll be games where the goaltender has to be good, and that's going to be his responsibility if he's a starter.
Of all the players, Johnny, that could have dropped out of this tournament, like Quinn Hughes not playing for the United States,
Big one,
is that Like, is that the biggest impact of any guy that could have dropped out? Like, Heiskanen for Finland, of course, is massive. You know, Pietrangelo drops out for Canada, but Drew Doughty steps right in. You don't feel like you lost much. Like, the U.S. losing Quinn Hughes, like, that's got to be the biggest impact of a player not playing or potentially not playing, is it not?
Yeah, maybe. I guess I don't want to disagree that it's the biggest impact, but I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have. Like, Quinn Hughes is incredible. He's a left-shot offensive catalyst defenseman that was going to play a huge role for the Americans. But they got Zach Werenski, who is a different kind of player, but plays a sort of similar role, similar position. Like, there's other guys available. I think, to me, if Crosby or Matthews or McDavid would have not played in this tournament, it would have had a bigger impact on how the tournament felt. Maybe not how it played out, but I think those three guys are the three sort of poster boys of the tournament in lending it seriousness, credibility, gravity, and importance. And I think if Sid had come to Montreal and said, you know what, can't do it, I'm out, I think people would have maybe started to feel different about the tournament, not necessarily on the ice, but just sort of how the perception of it. So maybe those three guys for the perception. As far as on the ice, I don't know. I mean, Quinn Hughes is huge for sure, but it's not like they can't replace him. Like Heiskanen is probably a bigger loss to Finland than Hughes would be to the Americans.
All right, so put your Mystic Mike hat on. Outside of the big names that you mentioned, is there somebody that you've circled, or maybe an X factor that we're overlooking? Any team, any country that you're like, I could see this guy being a difference maker, or this guy having a tournament and all eyes will be on him?
Before you answer, Johnny, don't you guys think that it could be like the Cale Makar tournament? We always talk about McKinnon and McDavid, but there could be a good chance that it's Cale Makar where everybody goes, oh my God, that guy's way better than we even talk about.
Yeah.
Did we see Doughty wearing 89 today? Mm-hmm. And Cale Makar wearing 8? How about that respect? How about that respect?
That's respect, man.
They're giving Makar, he's giving Makar his normal number, and he's taking the other one. I'm like, wow, that is something. So good on him. Now, if I'm going to say, Makar is obviously a supremely talented player, I'll go run down. Like, could Braden Point, who everyone I say is going to be great, but Braden Point on that team is probably not a marquee player. He's such a money player. He's so fast. He might not get on the power play, but would it surprise me if he kind of grows in his role and has a big tournament? Not at all. For the Americans, could Kyle Connor, with his ability to score goals in a tournament that's short, could he score 5 goals in 4 games? 100%. He's playing on the first line. He's going to be on the first power play. He's going to get a ton of service, and he is a quick strike, doesn't need many chances, doesn't need much room kind of player. I think he could be really good for Sweden. I'll say, too, they're playing together right now. Jesper Bratt, who I think is a tremendous player, sort of underrated, and Lucas Raymond, who, if you think about his last year and a half with Detroit, how many dramatic moments he has been involved in, late-game heroics last year down the stretch, and overtimes and 3-on-3s, and just a solid player who doesn't seem to mind the bright lights. Any of those players, to me, would have a great chance of being an impactful guy. And if we're going to Finland, I don't know, Arturi Lehkonen, back in Montreal, he's turned into such a good player for Colorado. Could he be pretty good with Barkov on his wing? He might be a guy who steps up and has a tournament. So there will be guys. It won't always be, McKinnon or McDavid or Matthews or whoever it is, Nylander, that lead these teams. There'll be other guys that have moments, and that's what will be part of what makes it so fun.
Johnny, you just mentioned the power play. How would you... And it looks easy from the outside if you're just a fan of hockey for the coach to say, throw him out in the ice and go make some things happen. But there's one puck out there, and there's a lot of big boys out there who command the puck and do amazing things. You talk about McKinnon's give and go and agility out there, McDavid going 100 miles an hour and finding the open guy, Reinhart in the bumper, Sid at the side of the net, tipping in shots, deflections, and then Makar does what he does at the back end. Where would you want things to kind of rotate around on that power play?
Well, I mean, I guess you're probably going to leave it to McKinnon and McDavid to get zone entries, which seems like a good option, whether you pump it back to them or whatever. Like, you two guys,
Yes.
1,000 miles an hour, 50-foot of gap, just get the puck in. And I think that sometimes can be a problem when you get new players together, so that hopefully should solve itself for Canada. My concern would be a desire to be unselfish. And everyone wanted to be a good guy, and everyone wanted to show that, they're a good teammate, especially early, right? Like, overpassing. I got a shot here, but I don't want to waste it because I got Crosby on the goal line. I got MacKinnon for the team. So I think not being too unselfish would be my message to the guys. I think Reinhart is a perfect no-frills player. He never wants it until he's going to shoot it, right? Like, he doesn't ever have to touch it until he shoots it in the net. Perfect. Sid, I think the work he'll do along the boards and the goal line, it really is the three guys up top. And Makar and MacKinnon have such great chemistry. But McDavid is a freelancer, and he often likes to play on his strong side, to left wing side. MacKinnon also likes to play on his offside, the left wing side. So sorting out those two guys at the top who are going to have the puck more than anyone, and I'm sure they can do it, but just I would be sort of in tune with what they're thinking, what they're doing up there, making sure that they have good spacing and good options, having a system while also letting them freelance. Those two guys would be the two I would be sort of most attentive to, because they do generally occupy the same spot on the power play on the ice.
Of all the things that we're going to see in this tournament, I think watching all these elite players put together on a power play is one of the things I'm most excited about. But Johnny, I guess, would there be any concern on your end that we get into the tournament and the whistles go away because they don't want this decided at 5-on-4. They want to let the guys play at 5-on-5, and they're going to be tentative to make calls? Like, any concern on that regard on your end?
No. I mean, I don't think so. It's all NHL referees. It'll be whatever standard. I don't think it'll be Game 7 standard. The guys who play these tournaments are generally not the most, crazy, over-the-top, physical, chippy players. So, if McDavid's buzzing through the neutral zone, he gets hooked by somebody, they should call the hook. I would hope not. I think the NHL is, in a good way, largely moving away from let's just let them figure it out. Who cares what infractions are made? We won't call anything because we don't want to be part of the story, because then immediately become part of the story. So, and that goes every which way. Like, I don't think the U.S. want to play a game where they never get on the power play. I don't think Sweden wants to play a game where they never get on the power play. So that means occasionally they'll have to kill as well. I don't think that's going to be as big of a concern. I don't think.
Johnny, there's all kinds of stories from the World Championship of guys coming home at 6 a.m. and winning 5-0 the next day, and it's nothing to see here. I know you know what I'm talking about. Do you think that these guys would let their hair down a little bit and maybe enjoy Montreal, or is it the era of cell phones and videos that they wouldn't even bother causing problems?
Yeah, I think it's probably the latter. Like, Canada plays tomorrow, right? Wednesday, and they don't play till Saturday, and they're in Montreal. In the regular season, that would be such an advanced green night. You'd be like, okay, we do whatever we want. We can shake it off Thursday, have a good practice Friday, and off we go on Saturday. But I do think, the fact that it's this group of players, there'd be so much attention. They wouldn't be able to go anywhere and even have a good time, because they'd be getting bothered by so many fans. No, I don't think so. Maybe if they win on next Thursday in Boston, they can get after it together, kind of one last time before they go back to work. But I think the nature of the players and the nature of reality, you said it, maybe more inclined to go back to their hotel room and play some video games and chop it up together than go out and stay out late at night at a bar or something. So I wouldn't think that would be a concern, although if there's ever a night to be concerned, is if Canada wins 7-1 tomorrow night, and they're like, okay, we're in good shape here, and we have 3 days between games.
Yeah, that's my biggest situation is it's almost like the NFL. We're going to have overreaction Thursday, one way or the other, and all I can think of, remember the World Cup, it was that Team Europe or whatever, that was like a makeshift team, or what was that called? And they were terrible. Yep. Yeah, they were terrible early on. They ended up making the finals once they got their act together. Do you feel like regardless of what happens in these first couple games, there is going to be an overreaction one way or the other. Say Canada loses and the goaltenders don't play that well, or the goalie doesn't play that well. Like, can you feel that narrative coming?
Well, yeah, I can. I can, because I mean, I think this tournament basically, right? There's 4 teams. Everyone plays 3 games. If there's all regulation games and it stays true to form, someone's 3-0, someone's 2-1, someone's 1-2, someone's 0-3. So you can lose one game, but if Canada loses tomorrow, then all Sweden has to do is beat Finland, and Canada can't catch them. And then it comes down to the American game on Saturday. They have to win to try to have 3 teams at 2-1. Listen, the minor hockey parent in me is coming out with a standings board, but that's the reality. If Canada plays poorly and loses the first game, then they have to basically beat the States to stay alive, and that is going to be a tall task, no matter how well they're playing, just because the Americans are that good. And if there are holes in the game, and I'm sure we'll go back to the World Junior team has gone 2 years without making the semifinals. So what's going on with the Canadian hockey? What's going on with the way we play in these tournaments? Whatever that conversation, which might be overblown. But as far as questions about the dominance of this team, if they don't win tomorrow, people will start kind of questioning, why not? Because now all of a sudden it makes it a pretty tough tournament just to get to the final.
Johnny, Mini Jerry, you had more fun doing this without Hayes here.
No, Mini Jerry, 92 to 8.
Wow. 92.
92%. You had more fun.
Well,
maybe we'll pre-tape something in the future. Just pro athletes only. We'll pre-tape it and we'll put it to air when Hazy comes back to host.
Do you guys like my hat? You guys didn't comment on my hat. This is my Rob Lowe NHL hat.
Oh, I love that.
You know how Rob Lowe has an NFL hat?
NHL.
This is my NHL Rob Lowe hat.
I love that.
You guys didn't notice this earlier.
Dude, I got to be honest with you. My return is just a phone, and my eyes can't see that far. Like, if I had my return up on a laptop, I would see it clearly.
I got this from Leo Komarov when he went to the All-Star game that year. Remember, Uncle Leo went to the All-Star game because we didn't have anyone else? Yeah. He brought home All-Star game hats for all the boys, and I still have mine. And this is my Rob Lowe NHL hat.
I love it.
That's
that
great.
Is the greatest. Remember Leo Komarov? That's where the Leafs have come from. Like, Leo Komarov scored, 27, 30 goals. He was the
all year, yeah.
Johnny, Noodles, they went from losing him to saying we got to get him back. That's where we were at.
Honest to God, Leo Komarov. I remember saying it on this show or the other shows, wherever we were, Leafs Lunch. I'm like, he's a third line winger, and people went nuts. Like, I was getting texts from people going, he's an all-star. And I'm saying, I'm sorry. In a perfect world, he's a third line left winger. But that's how far the. Yeah,
he's number one pick in most random All-Star game participants.
Right.
So,
he's an all-star of a guy.
He is.
Yes.
All right, Johnny, thanks for doing this, pal.
Hey, thank you for doing this. You are an inspiration, and you don't be too good at it. They'll be asking you to sit in for Hayes all the time, which means you have to, do this all the time, which is maybe not exactly what you want.
Yeah, well, we've been pretty good, so we might have to take a dump in the last hour, and they won't ask us to do it again.
Perfect.
All right, Johnny, see you later, pal. Mike Johnson joined us on the Maple Toyota hotline. Count on Maple Toyota for the right winter tire package for your Toyota. Trade in your tires, buy a new set, and get $40 back.
Yes.
Visit mapletoyota.com. Who doesn't want new tires, and who doesn't want $40, and who doesn't want confirm or deny? It's coming up next on Overdrive.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
God, that voice just makes me cringe. The Fergler. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have a voice that would just make you. Yeah, well, I probably know who that one is. We don't need to get into name calling, but
let's not do that.
Every player's probably got
show.
one voice. I think it's probably common for every player, and probably every executive has multiple voices or names, plates that just drive them nuts.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes. Confirm or deny? Here we go. Elias Pettersson will return to top form while playing for Sweden. Confirm or deny?
I'm going to deny that. I'm going to deny that because if he was going to do it, he would have done it already. And if there was some kind of ailment that was holding him back, then chances are it's still going to be holding him back now in this tournament. He hasn't had the adequate rest, recovery, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little concerned about Sweden through the middle of the ice. Like Zibanejad, Pettersson doesn't exactly scream like they can keep up with Eichel, Matthews, McDavid, MacKinnon. But I just think if he was going to do it, he would have done it already. And if he does do it, great news for the Vancouver Canucks. Also, if I'm Rick Tocchet, I'm like, where's that been all year, dude? Like, we know you have it. So I'm going to deny it, though.
I'm denying it, but I'm also throwing a little asterisk beside it because I think...
Can't do it. That's a Fergler move. It's got to be confirm or deny. There's no Fergie asterisks.
I can either confirm or deny that.
For my message, bigger picture. I think Pettersson will get it on the rails, and I think that... But I don't think it's going to happen in this tournament. I do believe he's going to get... What this might help is get him trending in the right direction, get him up to speed, get him around his countrymen, get his confidence back. I don't think he's going to dominate in this tournament. He might, but I think what it might do is fast-track him to get his act together playing for the Vancouver Canucks. That's what they need. But I'm going to deny it from this tournament dominating in the tournament, but I think it is going to help him down the stretch for the Canucks.
I'm going to confirm it, guys, and I'm going to base it on a few small things. I saw some things in that game against Toronto. I saw a reverse hit in the corner against Benoit. It was either Benoit or McCabe, and I'm like, oh, maybe this guy means business now. Why it took this long and JT Miller out the door for him to start competing the way he is beyond me. But I think he's just too talented of a player to play this poorly for this long. So I think the joke's got to be over, and it's got to be the Elias Pettersson of old, where he comes up and he just dominates. Because, Frankie, you watch a lot of the Canucks. That guy was a dynamic talent, and he's disappeared. Like, he has simply disappeared.
You know what it is with him? I feel like he's lost that half step that he had. And that because he wasn't the fastest guy to begin with, but that little bit split second that he did have, he could create some separation that he hasn't been able to get recently. And that's what maybe leads me to believe something has been bugging him. And hey, everyone's got to play through stuff. The best players in the world, their game doesn't fall off a cliff when something is bugging him. But you're right. If you watch this guy at his best, he's a top 10, 15 talent in the NHL, but he hasn't been anywhere near that recently.
This one, Doogie spiced it up a little bit, and there was one I had a question mark. One of Mikko Rantanen, and I asked Doogie why Mikko Rantanen, he's already been traded, and Doogie says it might happen again. I think that's crazy talk. One of Mikko Rantanen, Brad Marchand, or Sam Bennett will be traded by the deadline. Only has to be one.
Say it again. Mikko Rantanen, Sam
Doogie
Bennett.
has been hearing, Doogie's an insider, I'm not sure you guys know this, but he's been hearing whispers and reports that a trade with Mikko Rantanen can happen once again. Brad Marchand or Sam Bennett, only one of them could be moved by the deadline.
Deny. I'm denying all three. I think that Boston... they're close to getting their act together. You got McAvoy back now. I think Lindholm is back skating, so that's your top pairing defenseman. I don't think you're trading Sam Bennett. If you're Florida, you're trying to get his contract done. And Rantanen, to flip him in another big deal, I think it's more, I don't think that's going to happen. They're trying to get better. They're not trying to get worse. Who are you trading Rantanen again? Now, there is one little question I would have. Does he have a no trade again once you've been traded? Is it a 10-team no trade? Because I do believe that
would follow
scenario.
The player. Yeah,
right.
that's got to follow him wherever he goes.
I don't think he's getting traded. So I'm denying it. I'm saying
Oh, this is Doogie. I'm sorry, buddy. You've been hanging out on like weird Reddit pages. If this is what
the
you're
ultimate
hearing.
Ron Burgundy sewer job.
This is a
This
deny.
is the host job. It's the host job.
It's a deny all day long. Carolina just went out and they got Rantanen because they need to win a Stanley Cup, and they see that there's no real team in the East that's running away with it that you're absolutely afraid of. Boston has too much pride to pack it in and say we're going to move on from Brad Marchand in the middle of the season. They're not going to do that, and Florida's in win now mode. Sam Bennett keeps them there, regardless of how the contract may or may not play out. They would win another Stanley Cup, and they wouldn't think twice about it if Sam Bennett walked on them because they won another Stanley Cup. So it's a deny all day long, Doogie.
I'm gonna confirm it. Actually, I just think
this is such a Hayes move.
I'm gonna confirm it because I think there's been some crazy stuff that's happened. I think there's more crazy things to go on. Maybe Rantanen leaving Colorado has made GMs realize I don't need to be totally, completely in love with my player. There's other players out there.
That's
so hopefully we see some
sound logic, actually.
Yeah, it is. Why you can't be in love with your own players? You get screwed all the time.
And the cap, right? And the cap now, like going up next year, like that gives teams a little more flexibility to make these big trades.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If I'm a GM or an executive, I'm not letting some players say the cap's going up. I want X amount because of that. I would say, see you later.
Yeah,
last one. Canada should be the clear-cut favorite at the Four Nations face-off.
Deny.
Yeah.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
I'm denying it. Yeah. I'm denying. How can they be the clear-cut favorite when the U.S.
Because they have Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon up the middle. I'll start. I'll confirm it. I think you look at that matchup, regardless of the talent of the USA, they're big, they're strong, they're fast, they've got real quality players. But I think going into the tournament, there's nothing wrong with saying with Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid as the 1-2 punch up the middle, that makes you a favorite. I think that's okay to say, but that's just me.
Well, it is. And it is. I mean, you make a great point. The best player in the world is playing for Canada, which is Connor McDavid. I think the U.S. team is deeper. That's the scary part because there is no weakness, zero weakness on that roster. We've already discussed Binnington's getting the start. Are you concerned? Yes, I make a case for him. He's a winner. The defensive core from Team Canada, did you have Parayko on the team lead at the start of the season? You look at, there are some players that were question marks. Seth Jarvis, I know he's the 13th, Konechny, guys like that. I think Team USA on paper matches up as good or potentially deeper if you go 1-12, 1-7 on the back end, and certainly in net. Yeah. So they're not my clear-cut favorite, but do I expect them to win? Hope they win? All of that fun stuff? Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to deny it based on the word clear-cut. It's not like Canada's going to run away with this on paper anyways. And the goaltending situation obviously favors the United States over Canada. And if you want to go player for player, line for line, all that kind of stuff, the Americans are going to be able to match up. The thing that hurts the Americans the most is Quinn Hughes. Like, I really think not having Quinn Hughes completely changes the complexion of things, but I think having the goaltending will mask some of that. I don't like but it's not like we're talking about NHL games where things can fall off a cliff if you don't have one guy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of insulation with these teams. I can't get behind Canada being the clear-cut slight favorite, sure, but not clear-cut.
All right, that's Confirm or Deny, brought to you by the Fergler, the worst executive in the history of the National Hockey League.
I can neither confirm or deny that.
Thank you for that. Let's take a break, and we're going to get to my green room buddy, Wes Cheng. TSN's betting analyst, Raptors guy. He's going to get into the Ingram signing. Doncic's debut with the Lakers. We're going to do that next.
Technique.
I'm really fired up to bring in our next guest, fellas, because he knows the inside scoop on all things NBA. He's a betting insider, betting analyst, TSN Raptors analyst, and he's a conspiracy theorist. He loves those as well.
Oh, I love that.
He's got them. He loves them, and he's got them. Wesley Cheng, come on in, man. How are you doing?
Oh, dog, let's go. Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so give us the breakdown on this Ingram signing. I always found it weird in pro sports how you just hand a bag to a guy that's never been around, but they must really like him, and it must kind of signals a different direction.
Yeah, I think ultimately, even before the trade went down, it's kind of like understood must have been some handshake agreement that if they were going to do this, Ingram was going to be signing on for some term. So now we know the numbers. He's here for 3 more years. And I think ultimately this was the plan from the get-go. You know, one of the things I think is worth mentioning about how all this works, because you have a bunch of people who are concerned about tank or no tank. The core of this team, the way they've set it up is now Scotty Barnes.
Yeah.
They picked him. That's the leader. Whether you like it or not, he's the leader of this team. So they need to bring in guys who are going to support him and set him up for success, as opposed to tanking for 2, 3 more years. And then by that point, you don't know what type of situation you have with Scotty Barnes by that point in his career. You have an opportunity to turn, Bruce Brown, some other pieces here, to turn him into somebody who can immediately impact winning. So this just means the Raptors next year, that's when their playoff window begins. They're going right for it.
When it comes to them picking this guy up and making the trade and signing him, obviously, right away, I'm not going to use the term desperate. Like, I don't think the Raptors are desperate. They do have a plan in mind. But is there a little kind of, hey, we better make sure we make this business quick and lock him up before anyone has any kind of thoughts of, like, not wanting to be here?
I get the sense that even before everything was kind of, pen to paper, it was already decided that he was going to be part of the long-term plans. From what I know, again, these are just like sources, people that I know within our company. I think it's been understood that Masai's had his eye on Ingram for more than just this season. It's been for a while. So this is a player that I think Masai has coveted. I think he believes in this player. And whether or not it's a perfect fit for Scotty Barnes and the Raptors infrastructure currently, that still remains to be seen. But it's not like he's signed on for some, supermax, 4-year term deal. It's a 3-year deal. And if it doesn't work out, they kind of have a bit of a get out of jail free card. But, if you think about what his contract was coming into this year and what they signed him for now, it's not too far above what the previous contract was. So, to be honest, it's pretty reasonable. And I think the main thing that I always have been flagging this week, this all started with trading away Siakam. And as a byproduct of that, if Bruce Brown didn't end up getting shipped out anywhere and he was stuck on the team, you essentially traded Siakam away for nothing. So at least you're picking a guy now who can partner beside Scotty Barnes here as a result of that Pascal Siakam trade. And it's a gamble that Masai's making here, but this is probably better off than them having absolutely nothing to show for if Bruce Brown didn't end up getting anything at the deadline.
So, Wes, how do they navigate the tank from here on in? Because you still want to show the fans, oh, yeah, we're serious. Like, we're not going to be that bad for that long. And we want to be garbage to have a shot at the pick. I mean, they're playing the Sixers tonight, and they're 9.5-point dogs. Like, where does the tank go from here?
Oh, I mean, Bobby Webster was pretty clear in his press conference after the trade deadline. He said, our number one focus from this point is the NBA draft. He explicitly said it. So I think you're going to see them try to slot in players here and there to get them some reps together, build some chemistry. But he literally was as explicit as you can be. They want a top 5 level guy from this draft, and then they instantly start trying to compete come next October.
So, Wesley, you and I are conspiracy theorists. Walk me through. I believe in all of that stuff. Although I'll research it, and then somebody has to talk me off the ledge. Talk me off the ledge here, this Doncic just to L.A. To me, I mean, there were better, or not better, but there have been more out there. Something was fishy about this, was it not? Or what do you make of it?
Listen, I'm just asking questions like any good journalist would. And all I'm saying, it's a little bit strange that every single stakeholder that has seemingly been involved in the NBA had the exact same shock reaction. Even the guy who broke the news thought it was some sort of like hack fake, message that he got. So it just says everything you need to know. Every single person involved had the same reaction. It's a bit telling. But again, that's why they're paid the big bucks to make these big decisions, and we're here just talking about them.
It's crazy, Wes. Like, you get to a point where you look at it and you're like, okay, the guy was out of shape and they just didn't want to dump that money into him. But then he goes to L.A. and you see the hype and LeBron wearing the 77 jersey, and you just think, like, maybe Dallas are a bunch of morons for doing this. Like, maybe that was just a massive screw-up, man.
That's probably how it's going to play out right now. I mean, it's a pretty scary fallout right now for Dallas and how things have fallen apart for them really quickly. So it could be literally an all-time blunder in like the history of the NBA, and that'll be a terrible legacy for Nico Harrison and the front office there.
Well, Wes, thanks a lot for doing this, buddy. We appreciate you coming on short notice, so thank you very much for that.
Hey, man. Happy to be here, man. Appreciate it, guys.
There's Wesley Cheng, the TSN betting analyst.
See?
You think he's got some inside scoops on how to make some cabbage or what?
That would be nice. What if you just said, like, what if you just dropped off, $500 in an envelope for him in the green room and just said, do it.
Turn this into $5,000. Wesley,
Exactly.
here's $500. Turn it into $5,000 for me.
I think that's such a D-bag move to do that, because it's just like, I'm sure you guys had buddies that would call you and be like, what do you think about that team playing in the NHL? I'd be like, don't ever ask me that question again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't ever ask me that question again.
I never had it as a player, but I get it all the time now where people are like, hey, what do you make of that? I'm like, I don't know. If I could predict the future, I would be the first guy betting. I can't do that stuff. I don't know. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game. All right, coming up next in the next hour, Noodles, we got your buddy Tyson Nash coming up.
Yes.
He's always a great chat. He's fired up at all times. And we got Michael Russo that covers Team USA, or is covering Team USA at the Four Nations. So we got that coming up next. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.